We're going live to Caracas, Venezuela, and one of the main avenues of the city as the great pilgrimage is entering the capital district. As we're saying live, the caravan, we're seeing all the authorities that led each 3 different routes throughout the nation. We're seeing that began on April 19th. We're seeing now this great caravan that began, as we were saying, from three different spots through the different areas of the country, now coming together as a single one great march, entering the capital district. We're seeing there in the truck that is leading the caravan, we're seeing the acting President Delcy Rodriguez, accompanied by the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, as well as the Interior Justice and Peace Minister, Diosdado Cabello. This great national pilgrimage that began on April 10th, marking a historic milestone for the Bolivarian Republic's history, as a call by the acting President of all sectors of Venezuela, of all political sectors of Venezuela, to come together, to unite in one single block to call for an end of the sanctions and the blockades that have been impacting the nation for over 10 years now, since the Obama administration, when Venezuela, if we recall back then, was declared as an unusual threat to the United States. So this is the result we are seeing is the result of this great national pilgrimage across the country, where unity has been the core of the expression of Venezuelans. They have mobilized, reaffirming their strength, their unity, their awareness, their love for their nation, their love for the homeland, calling for a clear message, calling for the end of the sanctions that hinder the development of the nation, calling for the end of the blockade that has impacted and continues to impact until today, until the moment that the sanctions are lifted, impacts the Venezuelan family. So Venezuela, from all areas of the nation, from east, south, and west, all are getting here together as they enter the capital district of Caracas through one of the main avenues in this very large, as we are seeing on the screen, very large gathering of people on their bikes, on their vehicles, following the leadership of the authorities. We're seeing the truck that is leading this great caravan is being led by the acting President Delcy Rodriguez, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, and the Interior Justice and Peace Minister, Diosdado Cabello. This is the result of Venezuelans coming together to build proposals, to build ideas, to build a consensus on the dire impact that the sanctions has on the Venezuelan families, on the daily life of Venezuelans. This is a clear message that Venezuela will continue moving forward, facing the challenges that are put on their way, facing the obstacles, and that united, as all the authorities has been referring us up to now, that is only in a united nation, in a united people, in a people that comes together as one single block, will be able to overcome these challenges. We have been seeing on the past 10, 11 days the different leaders that were leading the caravan on each of the sides of the country. In every state that they stop on their way to Caracas today, we saw how they use this also as an opportunity to listen to the people, to listen to different sectors, to learn what are the impacts, what are the challenges, and what are the tasks that can be carried out to overcome these tasks. But their message has always remained the same, the message of unity, which is the call that the acting President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, made. So what you're seeing now is images of joy, of happiness, of this great demonstration of unity that Venezuela has shown in these past 11 days. Venezuela now reaffirms its willingness to stand together and to call for an end of these sanctions. As one of the main objectives of this caravan as well is to be able to bring the message that, and to be able to inform, to make people aware of the impact that these sanctions has across the entire nation, entire different sectors of Venezuela. So a large gathering, as we were saying, the national great pilgrimage for a sanction-free and peace nation is almost reaching its end, as we're seeing live on their screen, they are entering the capital. As we were saying, this Thursday is the day that they enter the capital, and they conclude, as the different authorities have said, concludes the first stage of this national program has been announced by the authorities. They're saying that the fact that this just happened is not just going to be a one-in-a-time thing. It's going to be a continued process to highlight and to be able to visit every corner of Venezuela, to be able to listen to every corner of the Venezuelan people, and to be able to bring all areas of Venezuela, all sectors of Venezuelan society together, to bring them together, to be able to unite in one single voice and in one single mission, with one single goal and objective, which is the development of the nation, with the establishing of new strategies and new measures to continue for the strengthening of the economy as part of the continued process of economic recovery that Venezuela has launched since the end of the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, the economy was already being recovered little by little when the pandemic hit. And this has also been one of the many examples that have been put forward as one of the many areas that were impacted and impacted the people of Venezuela with the fact that Venezuela had to face, overcome the challenges of the pandemic, being sanctioned, being blocked, and all the different strategies and measures that they had to activate, and the creative solutions that they had to find to be able to overcome the challenges of the pandemic. So as we continue to see live this massive caravan that is entering the capital of Venezuela through one of the main avenues of the nation, being led by the authorities, the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, the president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, and the Interior Justice and Peace, Diosdado, Cabello, that we're seeing right now there in the center of that truck that is leading the march of this caravan. Talking about the impact of the sanction, of course, it had very negative impact across different sectors: agriculture, health, education. All different sectors were impacted by these sanctions. But what we have seen in the past years is Venezuelan people come out together. Those people that decided to stay in Venezuela, to work for Venezuela, to use their efforts to bring Venezuela forward. We saw Venezuela to come forward, how with their own efforts were able to increase production, to be able to increase different industries that did not exist before, to be able to carry out innovative entrepreneurship, to be able to bring forward the recovery of the economy of the nation. If we recall, Venezuela was a nation that its main aspect was the hydrocarbon sector, and due to the sanctions and the blockades that impacted the nation, they pretty much lost 99% of those incomes that came from that hydrocarbon sector, which triggered a very serious crisis in a nation, as when you lose pretty much 90% of your income, you have to find many people, as the authorities have said, many people would have not been able to, but as the authorities have said throughout these past days of pilgrimage, Venezuelans found a way to stand up and find a way to overcome those challenges, and with their own efforts to be able to find these creative solutions to be able to begin the economic recovery. And today we see a Venezuela that has a stronger production than it had before the sanctions, that it had before the blockades. But still there are many obstacles, as the authorities have said, that these sanctions, of course, impose, since they prohibit the nation to have regular relationships with the international community. As we have seen, the authorities said that with just the temporary lifting of some of those sanctions, like for example the integration of the Venezuelan Central Bank to the international finance system, Venezuela has begun to see changes. So the question is that has been made by all the authorities throughout this day of pilgrimage: where would Venezuela be once all the sanctions are lifted? So in a way, that's what they're calling for, a different end of the sanctions. That's why Venezuelans have come together, as we have seen throughout these past 11 days, and as we are seeing here today with this massive, large motorcade demonstration of people on their way to the center of the capital, as we are seeing with the caravan being led by these three authorities: the acting president of Venezuela, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, and the Interior Justice and Peace Minister, Diosdado Cabello, they continue with this motto, which is united. A Venezuelan united will be able to fly free once all sanctions are lifted. This is what is happening right now in Caracas as the National Great Program is following 12 days of touring the entire nation, where the potentials that every state that were visited were highlighted, and how new things are going to be coming, new strategies are going to be implemented to continue to increase the production of, and the developing of the potentials of every of those states. So we see the acting president and more authorities leading this great caravan, as we're seeing on our screen, with the Interior Justice and Peace Minister, as well as the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, and the ministers and authorities are there moving forward with this great mobilization as it continues its path through one of the main avenues of the capital district on its way to the center. As we were saying, this as part of the conclusion of this great national pilgrimage that began since April 19th, that concludes today on April 30th. We'll have a large gathering. Once this caravan arrives, we'll have a large gathering where people will reaffirm their call of unity and reaffirm their demand to the U.S. and European governments to have the full removal of all sanctions and blockades that hinder the development of the nation. The pilgrimage, as we were saying, went over different regions of the country in different states, reaffirming in every of those states, reaffirming the commitment of the different sectors found in those states, reaffirming their commitment to a prosperous Venezuela, their commitment to their homeland. As the authorities have said in these past days, this is not something of one single party, since the sanction not only affects the members of one single party, since the sanction affects everyone in Venezuela. That's why the call was made for all of Venezuela, all of the political sectors, for all daily sectors of the daily life of Venezuela to come together, to unite behind this block, behind this motto to let Venezuela free, behind this call for an indefinite end of the imperial sanctions and the unilateral coercive measures. With this national pilgrimage has also helped in a way, since the authorities were able to move around the country. It helped also to reinforce the relationship between the different sectors with the government, with the national government, as they were able to exchange ideas, to exchange concerns directly with the government authorities. And we saw through all these days, through all the different stops across different states, how the government authorities were writing down, as Diosdado, Cabello, or the Jorge Rodriguez, all of them always say that they asked the governor of the state that they were visiting to put on paper all the challenges, all the issues that they were facing, so that they could be brought back to Caracas, and so that work could be done to solve those issues and find a way. We saw this happen with the possibility of reforms in different laws in different sectors. We saw them, for example, in Isla Margaritas for the issue of the free ports law. We saw them as well in terms of the mass productions in other states on how to strengthen security and peace in those areas, to ensure that the farmers, the heart of the Venezuelan food production that guarantees the food for all Venezuelan people, don't have so many challenges, to the removal also of middlemen that try to take advantage and hinder the prices of the produce that are made by the farmers with their hard work in the land. This national pilgrimage also serves as a way to highlight the impact, sector by sector, of the sanctions against Venezuela, how it impacts all Venezuelan families. We continue to see the live images as with this massive demonstration proving the union, the answer that the Venezuelan people are giving to the call of the acting president that she made when she called for this pilgrimage on April 19th. She called it before, and on April 19th it began. With this national pilgrimage, Venezuelans are highlighting their willingness to work together to ensure peace for Venezuela and to work for the homeland that they love. With this images, we are seeing Venezuela standing, reaffirming their commitment to the Bolivarian Republic, to their nation, and also reaffirming a united call for the end of those sanctions. We can say this is a milestone of Venezuelan history, with the conclusion of this first stage of the great national pilgrimage that concludes today here in Caracas. We're seeing different sectors that have joined these activities throughout the days of pilgrimage. We saw how everyone's coming together in the different states. We saw different sectors, students, teachers, the business sector, farmers, industrial sectors all have come together to answer this call to unite behind one single objective, one single goal, which is the prosperity of Venezuela. So this is a great celebration, a great caravan that's being witnessed in Venezuelan territory just a few minutes past 3 p.m. local time, as this great national pilgrimage comes to an end here in Caracas after traveling across all the different states of Venezuela. This is a great national pilgrimage that was a meeting point for all Venezuelans to come together, and was a meeting point for bringing together different sectors to provide different aspects and provide proposals to overcome the current challenges that the Venezuelan people are facing due to the sanctions imposed by the U.S. and European governments. So we continue to see through this tour, we're seeing how the large demonstration of people coming forward, coming together, answering the call of the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez. We recall that people from different political backgrounds came together as well and joined this national pilgrimage for a sanction-free nation and for a nation at peace. We saw the different sectors of the Venezuelan life, different productive sectors as well, to come together to join as well this national pilgrimage. These are the live images we are getting from Caracas. We were saying of the people, this large demonstration of people accompanying the acting president, who is also accompanied by different authorities leading on the truck that is leading this caravan as it enters the capital district of Caracas of Venezuela. So people continue with this action, continue to express the importance to call for an end. We are now also seeing live images as well coming from different areas. We can see the joy of the people, the diversity of the people that have come together. We are seeing people on foot, on bikes, everyone, all different sectors, different unions have decided to gather for this massive gathering, this massive march that we are seeing taking place right now in the capital city, as this first stage of the national pilgrimage closes. A national pilgrimage that has put up high the cry of a united Venezuelan people, calling for an end of the sanction, calling for an end of the blockade, calling for an end of all the unilateral coercive measures that have been imposed against Venezuela. This pilgrimage has also been able to highlight the work, the efforts that have been carried out by different sectors across different states. We have been able to see the results, how far Venezuela has come following the imposition of the sanction and all the strategies that have been implemented. This pilgrimage has also been useful to be able to, for the highest authorities of Venezuela, to be able to get in touch, in contact, face to face directly with all the different sectors of Venezuela, the different productions, different productive sectors of Venezuela. They were able to speak with them, to listen to their concern, to listen also to their proposals on how things can be improved. And this was the idea behind this national great pilgrimage, to be able to listen to Venezuela, to be able to bring all of Venezuela together united for one single flag, the tricolor flag, and have everyone aware of the impact that the sanctions have and the importance it is to work united to achieve any objective. The main objective of this national pilgrimage, of course, is the end of the sanction, is the end of the blockades imposed against Venezuela by the US and European governments. But it was also a way to, as the authorities said, was a way also as a start, as they have expressed, this is just the first stage of national pilgrimages that are going to take place in Venezuela, because as the different authorities have said, they have to travel through all the areas of Venezuela, because all of Venezuela has to be added, all of Venezuela has to join this process of unity for a peaceful Venezuela, for a sanction-free Venezuela, with a clear message that in unity is where Venezuela will find strength to overcome all the challenges. We will continue to see the authorities here, the acting President Delcy Rodriguez, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, the Interior Justice and Peace Minister, Diosdado Cabello, greeting all this large gathering of people that have come together, answering that call of unity, answering that call to unite, to come together as Venezuelans for one single country, under one single homeland. This pilgrimage was also instrumental in bringing the clear message to all corners of Venezuela of the impacts of those sanctions, how those sanctions impact the Venezuelan family, and know how the narrative that was issued, that was created to justify the sanctions, that only impacted a few. So today, with this arrival here in Caracas, this marks the milestone of the conclusion of this first milestone of this great caravan. So we are seeing this great national pilgrimage that is closing in to Plaza Venezuela, an important and iconic square, of course, of the capital city. We can expect more activities taking place in this location, as we see that it's getting even more people. We're seeing more crowded people. People have come out here to greet the authorities, and we're seeing the authorities greet all the large demonstration of people that are here at the head of this large caravan. And what we can take from here is the clear message that the Venezuelan people are giving to the world. They are saying, we stand united, we are ready to stand united, we are ready to defend the peace, we are ready to defend the sovereignty of the nation, the sovereignty of the Bolivarian Republic. As Venezuela cries as one single voice that the sanctions must end and the blockades must end, because these sanctions, these blockades, the United Progressive Measures are not against a government, are not against particular figures. They are against the entire people of Venezuela, as the impact of those sanctions affect the daily life of all Venezuelans across the national territory, and not only the national territory, but also abroad of Venezuela, since many people fell for the false narrative that was also installed, and many people, due to the impact of the sanctions, in a way were forced to abandon Venezuela, since they didn't see any future coming. But as Venezuela has shown in this past year of economic effort to recover that economy that was strongly hit by the economic sanctions, we have seen Venezuela come forward. I will continue to see these large demonstrations as it comes forward, as people are moving. This is not a traditional march that Venezuela usually uses. This has another level. This is a national pilgrimage that where we can see the people of Venezuela come together from all different sectors, because this is not only the march of one side, of the supporters of one side, the supporters of another. We're seeing a large gathering of the Venezuelan family across all different sectors, across different political sectors. We're seeing a united Venezuela coming together to call for an end of those sanctions, to call for an end of that blockade, and with a clear call of the right to live without sanctions, the right to live without blockades. The President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, on many occasions during the national pilgrimage, said that this represents a great festival that shows the will of the Venezuelan people to reunite, to re-encounter, and since the acting President, Delcy Rodriguez, took on the responsibility following the illegal criminal attack of the U.S. against the Bolivarian nation and the subsequent kidnapping of the constitutional President Nicolas Maduro, we have seen the acting President, following that aggression against the sovereignty of the nation, calling on the conscience of Venezuelans to come together to be able to resist, to face any foreign aggression. So a whole nation is joining this call of Venezuelan families for a nation free of sanctions, free of blockades, and an end to all coercive measures that hinder the development of the nation. We are seeing now, hearing the people chanting on the streets there in Caracas, chanting, giving a welcome to the pilgrims that carry out this national pilgrimage, and with these beautiful images of cultural diversity, as we are seeing different expression of culture, of music, all gathered together in this important moment, in this important milestone, as the first great national pilgrimage for a sanction-free nation, for a nation at peace, for a nation without blockades, is close to come to an end. This is the final stage of this great national pilgrimage that began back on April 19th. This is the first great national pilgrimage, and as well as that began back in April 19th and is coming to a close here today on April 30th in the capital of Venezuela, in Caracas, with this act of peace, with this act of faith, of hope that the Venezuelan people have come together in such large numbers with one single motto: let Venezuela fly free of sanctions, free of blockades, free of any way that prevents the Venezuelan people to be able to develop. Now we are seeing the final event on the stage. It seems to be beginning. We are listening to the people try to organize as people gather here so that more people can join in, trying to organize so that more people can be together and can occupy the spaces. Well, we continue to see the live images of Venezuela as people have come out together in large numbers we can see in these images the large amount of people that have gathered here to call for an end of the sanctions. The people have gathered here to accompany the arrival of the great national pilgrimage that today concludes its pilgrimage throughout the different territories of Venezuela. The pilgrimage led by the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, and Interior Justice and Peace Minister Diosdado Cabello. We can see the people join for peace, for hope, for the future of Venezuela. Different sectors, businessmen, health, education, farmers, industry, different productive sectors have all come together throughout Venezuela in different moments of the pilgrimage, and now we see the caravan, the pilgrimage, arrive here, awaiting by a large number of people of the capital district to form part all together of this massive celebration. And I say celebration because we can see in our images, we see wide variety of cultural expressions. We're seeing people in different costumes, with different musics, people from different faith, different ethnic background even have come together here today to join that call, to join that will of a united Venezuela to achieve a peaceful and prosperous Venezuela, and a Venezuela that is free of sanctions. So the main objective, the main goal of this great national pilgrimage that concludes today, April 30th, here in the capital of Venezuela, in Caracas, is that united call of calling for an end of sanctions and blockades. As the authorities have said throughout the pilgrimage and different stops that they made throughout the different areas of Venezuela, we have seen that the call is that only united can Venezuela achieve the objective and overcome any challenge. As a nation, as a whole, but also in every state, in every state, since every state has their own reality, they have their own obstacles to overcome, calling for a unity of the people of the different sectors of every state to be able to overcome those challenges together from the ground up, if we can say from the grassroots levels all the way to the national level. So the clear message remains unity and unity and more unity, which is the measure that has been reaffirmed over and over throughout these 12 days of national pilgrimage. Unity to be able to achieve an end to the sanctions, to be able to achieve the end of the coercive measures, to the end of the blockade, and also to be able to have a stronger society, a stronger nation that can better protect its sovereignty and national interests. Right now, what's happening here, the people are on the stage and they are taking part of the different activities taking place as people have gathered by the thousands and thousands here to welcome the national pilgrimage. As we continue to see live these outstanding images of the large gathering here in Plaza Venezuela, in the capital of the Bolivarian Republic in Caracas. Let's listen to what is happening.
Gracias.
Aplauso, vea, Francisco Pacheco. Símbolo de la cultura nacional.
Mírame ese charraquero, Naú.
Y ya trajeron un charraquero chiquitico, mira. ¿Cómo se llama ese charraquero? ¿Cómo se llama ese charraquero?
José Francisco Pacheco, vamos a ponerle
Pacheco. De los Pachecos.
Pero es Pacheco.
Bueno, ¿y cómo está el pueblo venezolano aquí?
So as we continue to listen to the people gathered here with these different expressions of culture, of customs, of happiness, of joy, as this great national pilgrimage concludes here in the capital on April 30th, that began on April 19th. Let's listen to the ambience, to the music of the people, the joy of the people that are gathered there in Plaza Venezuela.
Como dice.
Venezuela, Venezuela, bandera venezolana.
Ay, Venezuela, ay, Venezuela.
¡Y viva Venezuela!
Ay, Venezuela, bandera venezolana.
¡Viva Venezuela! Está aquí
Venezuela, mi patria
en nuestra
querida,
tarima,
en
en la autopista, la peregrina de Venezuela. Nuestra presidenta encargada, Delcy Rodríguez, acompañada del peregrino Jorge Rodríguez y el peregrino Diosdado Cabello, de la Comisión de Amnistía, de los compañeros de los movimientos sociales,
Venezuela pegó un
de los
grito
cultores nacionales.
diciendo que había nacido un segundo Jesucristo, y cuando Bolívar nació, Venezuela pegó un grito diciendo que había nacido un segundo Jesucristo. ¡Vamos, Venezuela!
Territorio romano, que libertad le daría al pueblo venezolano. Juró Bolívar un día en territorio romano, que libertad le daría al pueblo venezolano.
¿Cómo dice ese coro?
Venezuela, mi patria querida, que la libertó mi hermano fue Simón Bolívar. Venezuela, mi patria querida, que la libertó mi hermano fue Simón Bolívar.
Con su genio y con su espada desafió todas las pruebas, y su luz en Carabobo construyó una patria nueva. Ay, con su genio y con su espada desafió todas las pruebas, y su luz en Carabobo construyó una patria nueva.
Venezuela, mi patria
gracias a la providencia hundemos los venezolanos que nos dio ese ser humano para nuestra independencia. Gracias a la providencia hundemos los venezolanos que nos dio ese ser humano para nuestra independencia. Venezuela, mi patria querida.
Y aquí están los peregrinos
Hermano, pues,
que han recorrido todo
ok,
Venezuela.
ahora queremos escuchar un coro de ustedes. Vamos, coro venezolano.
Como
Que se
canta
oiga, que se
Venezuela.
oiga. Todos, todos, todos. Viva Venezuela, mi patria querida. Pueblo,
Todos,
pueblo,
todos.
pueblo. Libertó mi hermano, pues, Simón Bolívar. Viva Venezuela, mi patria querida. Que la libertó mi hermano, pues, Simón Bolívar.
Yo a Venezuela le digo al final de esta canción que cuando pienso en Bolívar se me enciende el corazón. Yo a Venezuela le digo al final de esta canción que cuando pienso en Bolívar se me enciende el corazón.
¡Que viva Venezuela!
Buenas tardes, pueblo venezolano.
So,
¿Cómo está el
with
pueblo
music, lively joy,
Levanten las manos los que
we
se
see the Venezuelan people
pueblo
gather here,
venezolano.
making a clear message that the people the Venezuelans are proud of Venezuelan. The people have gathered here for the conclusion of this first stage of the great national pilgrimage for a sanction-free nation that took place across all different states, as people from different sectors have come together to express their hope, to express their willingness to continue working for Venezuela, to continue working for Venezuela, and reaffirming a united call to end all sanctions and blockade.
A un pastor cristiano de la iglesia.
Now, the host of the event, as we're seeing live, is presenting the first speaker of this closing event, a pastor which will give a prayer of thanks for all this that has taken place.
Paz de Dios nos acompañe en un tiempo en el cual estamos como nación.
The pastor is saying,
Está al control de ella.
calling for God to bless Venezuela, to bless the people of Venezuela in this path of peace, reaffirming that the church cannot remain silent in the face of the challenges that are happening.
En Juan capítulo 16, versículo 33.
As we go over the news that has taken place right now that we're selling live in our images,
Tengas
the Venezuelan people have come together, as we are seeing, by the thousands and thousands, to welcome the great national pilgrimage that today concludes its first stage here in the capital of the Bolivarian Republic, with a clear message call for the end of the sanctions, to call for an end of blockades,
presente una vez
and
más.
to call for an end of the unilateral coercive measures. A national pilgrimage where the authorities went across west, south, and east, gathering here in the capital at the conclusions of this great national pilgrimage, meeting with with different sectors of Venezuela, with all sectors of Venezuelans in every state that the pilgrimage ran through, visiting, speaking with the people face to face, speaking as also an exercise of unity, as different sectors in different states came together in one single meeting point for coming up with proposing solutions as a united Venezuela to overcome the challenges the country faces due to the sanctions imposed against all these years of blockade. And this is a clear example of Venezuela standing up, of Venezuelan coming forward united to defend its sovereignty, to defend the productive future, and to be able to work together and raise the awareness of the people that still believe that the sanctions did not impact Venezuela as a whole. We're going to continue live here in this milestone event that without doubt is marking an important point in history for the Bolivarian
Saludo a los pastores de
Republic.
todo el país, en la palabra del pastor Mario. Y ahora seguimos en oración y hemos pedido al Padre Celestino Roja de
Other
la Iglesia de
pastors of, of another church will now also provide, as part of this conclusion of this first national pilgrimage, there's another pastor is also providing a prayer of peace for all of Venezuela gathered here on this important date. The pastor is summing up is saying that Venezuelans have gathered today here to pray for peace, and saying that, as the gospel says, everyone that works for peace can be referred to as son or daughter of God, which is the duty of all Venezuelans, to work for peace, to work for justice, and to live in brotherhood and sisterhood, to be able to overcome adversities and challenges together. For those joining us now live, what is happening in Venezuela is the milestone conclusion of this first stage of the national pilgrimage that traveled across Venezuela since April 19th, and is today coming here together in Caracas, in the capital, where it was received, as we are seeing on our screens, by thousands of people lining on the streets. Thousands of people were also lining on the path as the caravan was entering the capital through one of the main avenues. And it's a clear message that Venezuela is resistant, as it has done for years now, continues to resist and will continue to resist, united for a united Venezuela. The pastor continues to deliver a prayer for peace and justice in favor of all Venezuelans and the Bolivarian Republic.
El Señor esté con ustedes y la bendición de Dios Todopoderoso, Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo, descienda sobre ustedes y permanezca siempre. A ser constructores de paz, a dar testimonio
Important
de nuestra fe,
moments are currently being witnessed in Venezuela as this great national pilgrimage comes to an end this Thursday, April 30th. Venezuela, that has come together throughout different states in this great national pilgrimage, calling for an end of sanctions, an end for blockades. And the people have dared together, as we are seeing, they're going to give now wave to the stage to a worker of the oil sector, without doubt one of the sectors most hardly hit by the US and European sanctions. Let's listen to what this worker of the oil sector has to say.
Quisiera saludar a todo el pueblo caraqueño y a nuestra capital, quienes somos de la provincia.
In first place, I would like to greet all the people of Caracas.
En segundo lugar,
In second place, I want to thank the Hydrocarbon Ministry, the Executive Board of Petróleos de Venezuela, for allowing me today to be the spokesperson of all the oil workers, not only of the West, but also of Falcón, all different areas. Our own industry
ha sido atravesada por múltiples sanciones en el
was impacted by several sanctions in the last years
generado una merma en su productividad.
that impacted their productivity.
Venezuela se levanta
Today, Venezuela rises as a spearhead at the global level,
están sobre Venezuela y sobre su
at the eyes of the walls are on Venezuela and its industry. Those that have worked and value our industry for many years, we know the opportunity
compromiso que
and the commitment that we have ahead of us.
la nueva ley de hidrocarburos
The new hydrocarbon law
abre escenarios
opens new scenarios
que el esfuerzo
so that our own effort, mixed companies and private companies
como uno solo
can come together with one single purpose to generate greater wealth extracting hydrocarbons. A new stage, Republican stage, begins in the oil industry, where we need
toda la industria de hidrocarburos
to to modernize the gas and hydrocarbon industry. This will have positive consequences for the future of our country.
Estoy seguro
I'm
que
certain
a través del apoyo de ustedes,
that with the support, with your support, with the support of our acting president, the support of our workers, we were able to bring our industry forward, and it will flourish as a spearhead,
de orden mundial,
as a company
eficiente y que genere los
of
recursos
order
necesarios
that is efficient and generates the necessary resources for the future of our people. Thank you very much all. Let's continue moving forward, and successes in this national pilgrimage.
Bueno, un aplauso para los trabajadores de Venezuela. Ahora también quienes nos acompañaron en toda esta procesión nacional, vamos a invitar a una mujer.
We're now going to
En
listen
ella también están los
to
legisladores
a woman
nacionales que nos
representation
acompañaron.
of
Vamos a
the
invitar aquí
lawmakers
a Angelita
of the
Mayo,
National Assembly
diputada de la
that
Asamblea
also
Nacional
accompany
por el
the whole
Partido Acción
process.
Democrática.
Gonna
Adelante, Angelita.
Gracias.
Angeline
Hoy,
is
tomo
take-
este
is
derecho de
speaking.
palabra como joven, como mujer,
Today I
como
take
legisladora,
this
pero
floor as a young
fundamentalmente
woman,
como representante de
but
Acción Democrática
fundamentally
de los partidos de la Alianza Democrática. Hemos
of
acompañado
the
esta
Alliance,
peregrinación
of Democratic
por toda
Alliance. We have
Venezuela,
accompanied this
hablando
pilgrimage
sin
across
complejo
Venezuela,
alguno, con fuerza,
speaking
con
freely,
firmeza y con
openly, with strength and
responsabilidad,
responsibility,
diciéndole a Venezuela
saying,
y al
telling
mundo
Venezuela and the
que
world
hoy los
that
partidos de
today
oposición
the
que
opposition
hacen
parties that
Venezuela
do live here in Venezuela are united in this pilgrimage, that is not for the national government, it is for the dignity of an entire people. Today we are accompanying this pilgrimage for the dignity of Venezuela, to tell the world that today the interests of Venezuela are above any political interests, that today the interests of Venezuela are above any idea, that today we are united, that national tricolor, and that is why that we have to make it clear, and that is listened strongly here today, that opposition parties is a responsible position, democratic opposition, continues to bid for the construction of a Venezuela of peace, free of sanctions, and of course, where we can meet each other as Venezuelans. To end this small greeting, I have to make something clear. We are aware that sanctions, the coercive measures, have impacted the most vulnerable sectors of the country. That is why that we must say that sanctions cannot continue limiting the progress of this country, but on the contrary, we must unite in our differences to be able to insist in the construction of that Venezuela of peace, of opportunities for the new generations, and where we all are needed. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, ¿cómo están ustedes?
Good afternoon, how are you?
¿Cómo están los peregrinos, las peregrinas?
How are all the pilgrims?
Los saludamos desde aquí,
We
desde
greet
este
you from
espacio,
here, from this space,
con mucho cariño y respeto.
with lots of love and
Una gran
respect.
jornada nacional
A great national
de
day
peregrinación
of
por todo el
pilgrimage
territorio.
across the
Que
territory
hoy culmina
that
su
today
primera fase,
ends its first phase,
su primera fase,
its first
y
stage,
luego seguirán
and
con
then
los sectores.
continue by
Nuestra
different sectors.
hermana presidenta
Our
Delcy
sister
Rodríguez,
President Delcy Rodriguez,
cuando escuchó a los
when she
distintos
listened to different
del
sectors
país,
of the country,
desde cámaras empresariales,
from
desde estudiantes,
business chambers,
mujeres,
students, women,
trabajadores,
workers,
trabajadoras, le pidieron
they
hacer
asked
una gran
to do
jornada
a
nacional
great national
por
day
la paz
for
y
peace
por el cese del
and for
bloqueo
the
y
end of the
sanciones
blockade
contra
and
Venezuela.
sanctions against Venezuela.
Fue recibida y ella
She was,
inmediatamente
it was,
nos dijo,
it
"Mira,
was
vamos a hacer
received,
esta
and
actividad".
immediately she told us we
Y
must
vamos
do
a
this
dar la vuelta a
activity
Venezuela.
and let's go around
Y
Venezuela.
arrancamos con
And
tres
we
frentes,
began with
un
by
frente
three
de
fronts,
occidente,
one in the
desde
west
Zulia, se vino
from
nuestra
Zulia.
hermana Delcy
Our
desde Zulia.
sister Daisy
Jorge
came from
Rodríguez
Zulia. Jorge
vino
Rodriguez
desde
came
sur,
from the south,
desde Amazonas,
from
Bolívar.
Amazonas or Bolivar.
Yo me vine desde
I came
Táchira,
from Táchira,
desde Táchira y después los
Táchira,
llanos,
the
y
plains,
llegamos aquí a
and we
Caracas,
arrived
pero no
here in
llegamos
Caracas.
solos.
But we did not arrive
Llegamos
alone.
acompañados
We
de un
arrived
pueblo
accompanied
que
by a
quiere paz
people
para
that
este
wants
país
peace
y
for
le
this
exige al
country
mundo
and demands the
entero que
entire
ya
world
basta de
that
bloqueos, de
enough of
sanciones
blockades of
contra
sanctions
nuestro país.
against our country.
Y hermana presidenta,
And Sister
una
President,
cosa
if something
hemos recogido
we have
en todos
seen in all these talks that on the states where we've made the gatherings, the assemblies, is that there is a consensus, there's a consensus criteria in the country of the harm that the sanctions do to the Venezuelan people. The damage that these sanctions have been doing against our own people. Far was that council of one extremist sectors that the sanctions were only for the leadership of Chavism. Very far from that. The sanctions impact the same all Venezuelans, without distinctions of political colors, without distinctions of religion, without distinction of ages, without any kind of distinctions, men, women, all, our children especially. That's why this day, that today, I say again, comes to the end of its first stage, which has been a complete success. We must always recall that sanctions against Venezuela did not come about spontaneously. The sanctions against Venezuela came from haters, people that hated their own country, haters of their own people, haters of what was done here in Venezuela. And today, when we begin to see the results of standing together, united, firmly, a people with faith, with lots of faith, with lots of hope, we have the results there, and we know that the times for Venezuela will be the best times in many years. For Venezuela, good things are coming without a doubt. While we stay united, working, while we stand doing what we must. You know, dear colleagues, brothers and sisters, that many families suffer because a child left, 2 children left. Some have returned today, but today we must have our arms open and hearts open to embrace all Venezuelans returning to Venezuela, and we can give a true embrace, not a deceitful embrace, and that we all work together to stabilize the nation. Sister President, I believe we have fulfilled the first stage of this pilgrimage. We must do more now. We must do more. But we can say that today Venezuela, north to south, east to west, by the south, by the center of Venezuela, rose once more, united as brothers and sisters. A big embrace to all of you. Long live the homeland. And with you, I give the floor our sister Delcy, who was the mastermind of this pilgrimage, and I'm sure that she will give us more details. With all of you, Delcy Rodriguez, acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Por los caminos, amigos soy amigo. Tus manos no empuñan armas. Sus palabras son de vida. Sus palabras.
¡Que viva Venezuela!
Long live Venezuela. Say it up high, that our love for Venezuela can be listened everywhere. We arrived here in Caracas on April 19th of this year. All Venezuelans began this pilgrimage in the search and in that search for a new spirituality that allows us to coexist, to encounter the embrace among all of us. We found a people. We found a people that came from the mountains, from the south, with our indigenous peoples, from the plains, from Meganos, from the west, that came with their own culture, with their expressions, beautiful expressions of cultural identity that for centuries we have been building from our chieftains that gave the struggle against colonial powers, that we have been building since our independence process with Simón Bolívar at the helm, our heroes of independence fight. And this pilgrimage, in every state, we found with the faith, we found each other with the faith of our people. In every home of prayer, greeting to all priests and pastors. We also found with the great potentials of production that Venezuela has, that have been impacted by the economic blockade, but that we must also say it has been following a process of economic recovery thanks to the unity of our people. In that pilgrimage, we also found with the hopes of a youth that seeks the Venezuela of tomorrow. We found and we embraced with our grandparents harshly hit by the criminal sanctions. In that pilgrimage as well, we met with political oppositions as well. I want to thank the Democratic Action Party, COPEI, Venezuela First, Cabello, First Justice, Cambiemos, Avanzada Progresista, and I asked their representative to give a step forward. I want to thank them for accompanying this pilgrimage, that we were able to greet each other, see each other, and from our differences, with the party, we found a common cause, and that common cause is called Venezuela. That's the Venezuela in which we believe. A Venezuela that has rights, that has right to diversity. John Hector recalled me that we are next to the garden, which is the most rich and diverse garden that exists, because there you have the wealth of our wildlife. And that's the same with Venezuela. It's a rich country in its ethnic diversity, its cultural diversity, political diversity. There is a space for everyone here. I've said this, Venezuela is greater than differences, and we arrive in Caracas with great hopes. I want to greet the Minister of People's Power for Defense and the High Military Command that has accompanied us in this pilgrimage. I want also to welcome the Executive Cabinet that accompany in this pilgrimage and in these actions. And we arrived in Caracas excited. We arrived in Caracas with great emotions following what we saw. And if there is a strength that we must highlight, is that the Venezuelan people never surrenders. The Venezuelan people never kneels. The Venezuelan people always stand strong in the face of adversity, in the face of challenges. A legacy of our liberator hero, Simón Bolívar. What a glory these people has. How much dignity these people has. And I say this because yesterday we were in La Guaira and today in Caracas, and there were places that were targeted by the January 3rd attack, a military aggression, unjustified aggression a military aggression that has no space.
E inmediatamente nos
Immediately, we stood strong and we said,
vamos a dirimir nuestras
we are
diferencias
going to
con la
resolve
agenda diplomática,
our differences
con el diálogo
with diplomacy,
político
with political
diplomático,
dialogue,
y debo decirlo,
and I have to say it,
vamos rindiendo frutos,
that we are
vamos rindiendo
getting
frutos.
results.
Ya recientemente
Recently, we
el
received
segundo encargado de
the
negocios
second
federado,
U.S. charge d'affaires that has arrived in Venezuela after 7 years
embajada cerrada,
of a closed embassy. And in Washington,
la delegación de la diplomacia bolivariana de paz
the delegation of the Bolivarian peace diplomacy is currently there deployed working to bring the truth of the Venezuelan people.
no nos hemos rendido
We have not surrendered,
y rendimos cuentas a nuestro pueblo
and we report to our people of what it means to build a diplomatic agenda of cooperation.
Hoy llegó después de
Today,
7 años,
after 7 years,
el primer
the
vuelo
first
comercial
commercial
entre
flight
Estados
arrived
Unidos y Venezuela.
in Venezuela
Gracias a la agenda
from the United
diplomática
States, thanks to the
de dos
diplomatic agenda
gobiernos
between
que
two governments
decidieron
that
poner
decided
su mejor
to
empeño
put their best
en base al
efforts
respeto,
on the basis
sentarse
of
a
respect,
dialogar
sit and dialogue, and
y hemos venido
advance.
construyendo
And we
agendas
have
de
been
trabajo
building a work
en el
agenda
ámbito energético,
in the energy field,
en el ámbito de la
in the
minería.
mining field.
Quiero agradecer
I want
las
to
palabras
thank
de
the words
Gerardo,
of Gerardo,
trabajador
worker
petrolero.
of the oil sector.
Quiero pedir
I want to ask
aplauso especial
a big round of applause
trabajadores y a las trabajadoras
to all
de
workers
la industria
of
de
the
hidrocarburos,
hydrocarbon industry,
porque
because
el día de hoy Venezuela
today
ha recuperado
Venezuela has
nuevamente su
recovered
nivel
once
de
again
1.200.000
its level of
barriles de producción.
1.2 million barrels of production.
Y pido el aplauso
And I
porque ustedes
ask for this
saben
applause
bien
because you know very well
que producto
that
del
due to the
bloqueo
blockade,
que
the-
tuvimos en diciembre y en
the
enero,
naval blockade that we had in December and January, we had
y a mí me
decreased
da una
production.
profunda alegría
And it gives me great satisfaction that
del 1 de
now
mayo,
that
el Día
hours
del Trabajador,
from May 1st, Labor Day, I can tell you here, with truth in hand, with the workers, with the oil workers, with petrochemical workers,
podamos decir
we
que
can say
Venezuela,
to Venezuela,
aquí vamos,
we are here,
nos
we
rendimos,
never surrender,
no desistimos,
we never
y nos
desist,
pusimos
and
un
we
horizonte.
set an horizon.
Horizonte
That
de
horizon
crecimiento
of growth, of productive growth,
que sabemos
that we know
final de año
that by the end of the year,
a nuestro
we'll
pueblo
be here in front
diciéndole,
of our people, telling them
el millón
we have reached
400.000
the
barriles.
1.4 million
Héctor
barrels.
Obregón, ministra
Hector
Paula,
Obregón, Minister Paula,
aquí estaremos
we will be
dando la
here,
cara nuevamente. Pero yo también quiero hablar
but I also want to speak of the future,
de lo que ha significado
of what it has meant,
las inversiones
the
que hemos
investments that
firmado
we have
con
signed
las grandes empresas
with the great companies
productoras petroleras y de gas del mundo.
that produce oil and gas in the world.
Empresas Chevron,
Companies Chevron, Shell,
Eni,
Eni,
Repsol,
Repsol,
British Petroleum,
British Petroleum,
acá han venido bajo los parámetros del gobierno venezolano.
they have come under the standards of the Venezuelan government, under the standards of the new hydrocarbon law, under the laws of our republic,
Bajo el respeto
under
que
the
significa
respect that means
sostener
to
relaciones
have
de cooperación
cooperation
en el
relations
marco
in
de
the
nuestra
framework
dignidad
of our dignity,
económica. Y eso es lo que
economic
nos está
dignity.
diciendo a nosotros
And what that is telling us
es que para el año
is that by the
2030,
year 2030,
2040,
2040,
nosotros podremos decir
we will be able
no
to say
solamente
not only
que tenemos
that we have
el mejor crecimiento económico
the best
de
economic
nuestra
growth
región
of our
como
region
lo tenemos hoy,
as we have it today, but also we'll be able to say that we will have the best income of Latin America,
que miremos a ese futuro
that we look at that future,
y que sepamos
and that we know
que
that
vamos
we will
con
that we are
determinación,
advancing with determination, with faith,
optimismo,
with
con
optimism,
esperanza.
with hope.
A pocas horas
Few hours
del Día de los Trabajadores,
from the day of
quiero
workers of Labor Day, I want to make some announcements.
el primer anuncio
The first announcement
que quiero hacer
that I want to make
es que el ingreso
is that the
mínimo integral
integral minimum wage will reach the equivalent of $240.
Debo resaltar
I must highlight
que es el aumento
that is
más importante
the most important increase in the last years. We have never had an increase that allows us to have this level. I want to invite as well Work Minister Carlos Alexis, because today we signed a very important agreement on the table for the consensus, for the work consensus and social consensus. We have signed both the Bolivarian unions and opposition unions together with the employee sector, the employer sector, the commitment to this minimum income that the private sector is also called on to implement it. In those cases where it is inferior to the equivalent of $240. I want also to report that our grandparents, the hardest hit, will have a pension equivalent to the $70, and that this means an increase of 40%. It is not enough. It is not enough. We still have much to do, and that's why I ask for a special plan of attention for our grandparents. Starting today, this moment, the brigades of special attention, of integral attention of grandparents has been created, and those brigades will meet the grandsons and granddaughters and the grandchildren that are volunteers that are integrated in the Young Venezuela mission are also integrated. And those brigades will be compromised by the community doctors, by specialists of the National Institution of Nutrition, by mothers, by the communal councils, by the grandchildren, to go house by house, as we did with COVID. We're going to go house by house to see the needs of our grandparents. We're going to give a special supplies and equipment to the rehabilitation areas for the integral rehabilitation of our grandparents. Brothers and sisters, there's still much to do. This is just the first step that in just 4 months we are taking as a country in national union with a great effort of our workers. I want to give thanks to all of you for that effort. And I want also to a bonus of acknowledgement to the strategic sectors of the country. And these increases will be paid retroactively starting day of today, April 30th. I want to ask the Work Minister, Carlos Alexis, to inform about this important agreement that we have reached today among the unions of the country, the workers of Venezuela, and the business sector.
Sí, Presidenta, este es el reflejo de que la Mesa Nacional de Diálogo para los Consensos Laborales y Sociales que usted instaló hace apenas...
Minister, this is the reflection of the tables that you installed that 2 weeks ago, and now we're seeing the positive effects for the working class, effect for productivity of the country. This agreement is a consensus among all unions, both the Bolivarian Union as well as CTV, the Independent Venezuela Union as well, and the 2 organizations of chambers and business. There then, brothers and sisters, what's expressed there is that we can understand each other. That when I see the workers protesting, I tell them, you're right. We want better income for our workers. We want to recover fully the reach of what it means, the income. We are going there. The first step to be able to guarantee the purchasing power of workers. I've listened also concerns on behalf of the workers that are not attended. That's why I gave instruction to the work minister and the minister of finance and economy of the full recovery of the functioning of the work inspections, so that workers have where they can, the place where they can be heard, that they have a way that they can be defended, all their rights and their vindication as workers granted by the law. Welcome to the inspections of work. We have listened also to the business sector, and that's why the importance of consensus, of work consensus. I ask something of you. We have to formalize work. We have to formalize all workers so that they can have the protection of the state and the protection of the law. The level of formal work is very low. That's why we have seen the distortions in incomes, in pensions. We have to formalize this, and it is a task that we cannot postpone anymore. I call on the support of all workers of the country. Let's formalize for the respect of the workday, so there are no abuses. Let's respect the rights of our workers. And I've also asked this table for work consensus, social consensus. I've also asked them to work on a collective convention frame for the economic growth in the benefit of workers. Brothers and sisters, this is the time, this is the hour to think about the future. It's the hour to think what are we going to do in 2030, in 2040, in 2050. What are going to do? Workers guarantee the full economic growth so that our homeland, as our brother Diosdado said, so that our homeland once again flies free. And we're going to see a great Venezuela. I have called this stage, that is just the beginning, I've called it the rebirth of Venezuela. We are going to go after the lost decade due to the criminal sanctions. We are going to recover of the areas impacted our children, our grandparents. Let's go for that lost decade, but also going to frame a future that our youth can feel that they have hope. Starting tomorrow, I will be receiving in the Miraflores Palace young talent that are returning to our homeland. And I reiterate to Venezuelan youth that left Venezuela looking for better horizons. I told them, come back, return. Let's go for the rebirth of Venezuela. Let's go for the economic rebirth of Venezuela, that all those investments translate in employment, in income, in health, in education, in well-being, in social well-being of the Venezuelan people. Every signature can see behind the joy of a people. Every signature, what's behind is the hope of a country. Every signature for the investment in Venezuela has the mark of the Venezuela of the future, and that's why I invite you all to continue the pilgrimage for the rebirth of Venezuela. I ask also the opposition sectors to also find the political rebirth of our country, that we find ways to understand each other when it has to do with superior objective of our republic. The superior objective of our republic is the independence, is sovereignty, is liberty, the freedom of Venezuela, is the happiness of our people. I ask that we held hands as we came, as pilgrims, in deep reflection with the emotion and joy of being Venezuelans, with the dignity of being sons and daughters of Bolivar. What a high honor, what glory of this homeland. There's not a country in the world that has that honor. There's not a country in the world that has that dignity. Brothers and sisters, this is just the beginning. The sacrifice of today is the hope of tomorrow, is the hope for your children. And I say to conclude, as Bolivar said it, we need more to regenerate the country and give it consistency. Constance and more constance, work and more work to have a homeland, that we continue having homeland. Long live Venezuela. We were listening live the statements of different people gathered here in the Plaza Venezuela in the conclusions of this first stage of the National Great Pilgrimage for Venezuela, free of sanctions, free of blockades. But first, we were listening to the statements of the acting president of Venezuela, calling on the people to continue working together, to continue moving forward for the Venezuela of the future, for the Venezuela that they want to bequeath to their children, to their future generation, for the Venezuela of the 2030, 2040, 2050. The acting president made important announcements regarding the rights of workers. She announced the sign of an agreement between the different unions of the nation to strengthen the rights of the people, to vindicate the rights of the people, to be able to protect the workers of Venezuela. She also made the announcement she had already announced that there was going to be a responsible increase of the income on May 1st, marking Labor Day, and today she announced the amount, and she said the increase will be the minimum wage, the integral minimum wage will be the equivalent of $240 in Bolivar pesos, in the country's currency. Let's listen to the environment as this great national pilgrimage comes to an end. We must find joy with a big smile. We have to greet each other forever as friends. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for this beautiful pilgrimage. Thank you to all the team. Thank you, Venezuela. And thanks so that we continue in this pilgrimage until there is not a single sanction. Thank you, Venezuela.
Dice,
mentioned, the first stage of the national pilgrimage comes to an end with this very large gathering that took place in the capital in Plaza Venezuela, with important messages being delivered by the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy, with important announcements, as we were saying, as the increase of the minimum income of all workers, as well as the consensus reached by the different unions, the agreement signed by the different unions of the nation to continue to protect and to reinforce their rights and vindicate the rights of the workers of Venezuela. We also saw the creation of a new committee, of a new brigade to care deeply about the grandparents of the nation, about the elderly of the nations, which was also one of the sectors that were hardly hit by the economic sanctions and the blockade. Well, like this first stage of the national pilgrimage that began on April 19th that sought to unite Venezuela, and as a result we saw how Venezuela responded to that pilgrimage, to that call, and came together as one nation to defend their sovereignty and to defend their unity of their nation, to be able to call for a definite end to all sanctions and economic blockades, and to, as the motto has been of this pilgrimage, to let Venezuela fly free. Stay tuned with teleSUR English. We'll have more updates in upcoming news brief.